We are on lesson 10. Our objective for today says I will be able to add, subtract, and compare real numbers, including fractions, using common denominators, the number chant, and number line. So we start here with number 1. I see I have a lot of addition and subtraction. All I've got to do, I remember my order of operations. I'm just going from the left to the right. I don't have any grouping symbols, no exponents, no multiplication or division, so I've got addition and subtraction. I just go from the left to the right. Basically, this is just a combination of lessons 4, 5, and 6. So I'll look here. I've got a positive, plus, and negative. So I go same signs, add and keep, different signs, subtract. These signs are different, so I subtract. 3 minus 1 gives me 2/5. Remember, when we're adding and subtracting fractions, we have to have common denominators, which we have here, and we just add and subtract the numerators. Now, bring everything else down. I see here I've got minus and negative, so let's go ahead and change that to plus or positive. Minus and negative is always the same thing as plus or positive. Then I've got 2/5 minus 2/5, which is 0, plus 4/5, which is just 4/5. Again, that's just a combination of lessons 4, 5, and 6. I just add and subtract from the left to the right. Here I'm doing the same thing. I've got addition and subtraction. All I want to do is go from the left to the right. I've got 3 and 1600ths plus negative 1 and 2200. So I go same signs, add and keep, different signs, subtract. These signs are different, so I subtract 3 and 1600ths minus 2200ths gives me 1 and 9400ths minus 4 and 7300ths plus 5 and 6 tenths. Notice I brought everything else down. I've got subtraction. I'm subtracting a larger number from a smaller number. So what I want to do is change subtraction to addition, change the sign of the second term, then go same signs, add and keep, different signs, subtract. Those signs are different. This is positive, that's negative, so I subtract. 4 and 7300ths minus 1 and 9400ths gives me 2 and 7900ths. I take the sign of the higher number. 4 is larger than 1, so this is a negative 2 and 7900ths plus 5 and 6 tenths. Again, these signs are different, so I subtract. Let's go ahead and line this up. Same signs, add and keep, different signs, subtract. These signs are different, so I'm subtracting. When you're adding and subtracting decimals, remember you keep your decimals lined up. Alright, I can't take 9 from 0, so I'll make this a 10. I make this a 5, borrow 1 from here. That's 10 minus 9 is 1, 15 minus 7 is 8, 4 minus 2 is 2. That's 2 and 8100ths. Take the sign of the higher number. What's higher? 5 or 2? 5 is, so this is going to give me a 2 and 8100ths. Yes, a positive 2 and 8100ths. Number 2 says order the numbers from least to greatest. So I can't order these yet because they're written in different ways. I've got fractions and decimals. So what I've got to do is I've got to change them all to a common form. It's easiest to me to change all these to decimals because I know that 1/2 is 0 and 5 tenths. Everything else I can compare except this 7/8. So all I've got to do is turn that 7/8 into a decimal. To do that, let's just divide 8 into 7. You got to divide your numerator into your denominator. Make this a decimal. How many times does 8 go into 7? None. How many times does... Oh, thank you. How many times does 8 go into 7? 0. How many times does 8 go into 70? Should be 8. 8 times 8 is 64. Make this a 10. Make it a 10. Yes, make that a 10. Make that a 6. 10 minus 4 gives me 6. Add another 0. How many times will 8 go into 60? Should be 7. 7 times 8 gives me 56. Make that a 1. Make that a 5. 10 minus 6 gives me 4. Bring down a 0. How many times 8 go into 40? That would be 5. 40 goes in evenly. So, 7/8 as a decimal. Let me let you finish getting that. I'll zoom out some. 7/8 as a decimal is 0 and 875 thousandths. So now I know all of these numbers. It's 0 and 875 thousandths, negative 2, 0 and 5 tenths, and 0 and 25 hundredths. I just rewrote them all in a way that I compare them. Now I'm going to order them from least to greatest. Which one is the smallest? Well, the only one that's negative is smaller than all the rest of them. So negative 2 is smallest. Then 0 and 125 thousandths. I'm looking at the number in the tenths place to compare all these. 1 is the smallest, then 5, so this is 0 and 5 tenths, then 0, 875 thousandths. So there they are from the least to the greatest. To finish, let's write them all in the form that the problem gave them to me. That's -2, 0, and 125 thousandths, 1/2, and then 7/8. That is, there are those numbers from the least to the greatest. I had to write them all in a form where I could easily compare them. Now let's flip over to the back. Last problem says to compare these two using greater than, less than, or equal to. So again, all I've got to do is evaluate these. Let's evaluate the right, evaluate the left, evaluate the right, and then compare them. 3 plus -5. Let's go same signs, add and keep, different signs subtract. Take the sign of the higher number, then we'll be exact. The signs are different, so I'm going to subtract. 5 minus 3 gives me 2/8. Take the sign of the higher number, then bring down everything else. So that's -2/8 minus 1/8. Let's change subtraction to addition. Change the sign of the second term. We go same signs, add and keep. These signs are the same. Let's add. That's a 3/8. Keep it as negative. So that's 3/8. Now let's evaluate this one. I've got 6 and 25. -2 and 7/500 plus 6 and 2500. Same signs, add and keep. Different signs, subtract. Those signs are different, so we subtract 6 and 2500 minus 2 and 7500. 5 minus 5 is 0. That becomes 12. Borrow 1 from here. That becomes a 5. 12 minus 7 is 5. 5 minus 2 is 3. So that's 350. Yes, 350. Let me check myself. Yes, 350. So that is, take the sign of the higher number. 6 is higher than 2, so it's a positive 350 minus 3 and 7500. I could work that out, or I know I can change subtraction and addition, change the sign of the second term. 3 and 7500, so yeah, let's work that out actually. Minus 3, and I know it's going to be a quarter, but we're going to work it out anyway. Minus 3 and 5/10. We go same signs, add and keep, different signs, subtract. Remember, I changed subtraction to addition, change the sign of the second term. These signs are different, so subtract. 5 minus 0 is 5. 7 minus 5 is 2. Keep my decimals lined up. 0 and 2500. Take the sign of the higher number. 7500 is larger than 3 and 5/10. So I've got 3/8 compared to 2500. I can't compare those as they are. I can change this to a decimal and then compare them. I know 2500 is the same thing as 1/4. Then I make a common denominator out of that. So let's move over here to compare them. I've got 3/8 compared to 1/4. So that's 3/8 compared to 1/4 is the same thing as 2/8. I multiply 4 by 2. I multiply 1 by 2. That gives me 2/8. So I'm comparing 3/8 to, negative 3/8 to negative 2/8. I know that negative 3/8 is less than negative 2/8 because, think about this, think about it on a number line. Right? 0 is here, that would be negative 1/8, that would be negative 2/8, that would be negative 3/8. Okay? Negative 3/8 is less than negative 2/8, so my answer there is less than. We had to write them in a common form to compare them. That is all for that lesson.